Hello, everyone. Welcome to Mining Now. I'm your host, Jared Downey. Joining me is Gowdy Molina. Good morning, Gowdy.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing well, I think.
Oh, you're on the
I
spring break, aren't you?
spring
Yeah.
break, so you don't see her, 'cause, but she's off camera taking a nap.
Yeah. Oh, it's the way the world is now. We are featuring Bit Service today. Their president and CEO, Scott Bahr, is going to be joining us. They're doing a lot of work in the potash sector, but they currently do work in other sectors, but they're looking to expand. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that, the services they provide, the machines they work on. And before we do any of that, Gowdy, let's hand it over to you for our sponsors.
Absolutely. Let's get this going. So first up, we've got Savannah Equipment. Savannah Equipment supplies new and used mining equipment around the world, from placer to underground to ore processing plants. They have gold concentrating tables, trommels, and mineral jigs in stock now to take advantage of the high gold prices. You can visit their entire inventory, at savannahequipment.com, where you will find more equipment every day. And of course, tell your company's story to thousands of mining professionals every week. Use our platform, Mining Now, Crownsman Energy, or The Crownsman Show, to connect with your customers. We've got 2 episodes a week on our channel. So don't forget, subscribe to our YouTube channel and contact us, info@crownsman.com. We also have Power Zone. When you need a specialized team of world class engineers for your oil and gas pipelines, dewatering, or any fluid handling needs, you want to visit powerzone.com. In addition to their inventory of rebuilt pumps, motors, engines, they also have an amazing team to design and engineer your systems, no matter the challenge, no matter the location. Get in the zone with PowerZone. Visit them at powerzone.com. And last but not least, of course, we could not forget, mark your calendars. CIM 2021 Convention and Expo is coming to you this May. It is going May 3rd to 6th. And as a virtual event, it has never been easier to attend. Get insight from industry leaders like Anglo American's Mark Cutifani, Caterpillar's Denise Johnson, Torex Gold's Jody Kuzenko, and many more. Explore mining operations through virtual site tours, find the solutions and the expertise you need with technical talks, Q&A sessions, and the CIM Expo, Canada's mining marketplace. That's May 3rd to 6th. Visit cim.org to register today. There we go.
Thank you very much. And yours truly will be hosting their plenary session.
So then you definitely have to check it out.
So I'll take it
Get
personally.
more of Jared.
That's what everybody needs. How many times they see my face a week? Okay, Scott, welcome to the show. I'm excited to have Bit Service on. The company's been around a while, so I'm excited to dig into it.
Yes, for sure. Thank you for having me on today.
Let's start off with, I was thinking with when I heard the one sponsor, Savannah Equipment, my first thought was, I bet you Bit Service has had their parts on a machine that or multiple machines that Savannah Equipment has sold. So I wanted to jump right into that. What type of machines, what's the product, and what type of machines are you supplying to?
For sure. So I guess primarily, whether or not you want to dig into our history from how we started or what we currently do, which is a little bit of a different story. I guess in terms of, where we are currently is, looking at everything in terms of mechanical cutting in underground mining and some surface mining. And so, that goes from, 2 and 4 rotor boring machines and underground potash, continuous miners in potash and underground coal, road headers in both soft rock mining as well as hard rock development mining as well. And then in a lot of the feeder breaker applications in primary crushing in surface applications of coal and some hard rock mining as well.
Are there so how much of this work is that you're doing is custom? Like on a continuous miner, are there 50 different sizes? Are there 100 different sizes? Just to give you an idea, maybe pick one of those machines and sort of an example of what it would be to service that.
Yeah, so I guess on a continuous miner, for instance, I mean, the sizes do vary, as you mentioned, dramatically based on the type of mining that it's doing. On a continuous miner, they can deal with situations based on, the actual, the unconfined compressive strength of the rock, as sizing the machine, but as well as the seam height. They can deal with seam heights as low as less than 3 feet in height. And so that's, the overall ceiling height of the mine underground, all the way into, say, a potash application where quite consistently you have mining ceiling heights 12 feet or higher, so a very, very spacious application in comparison. And so we do, a little combination of both of that, in a lot of the industrial minerals sector where, the ore that they're looking for, gypsum is a good example where, the seam heights are, anywhere from 28 to 36 inches in height. And so it's very narrow. The mining machine has to fit inside of that envelope, as well as the underground mining operators that are doing that work. And so, what we do is looking after the cutting assembly, the actual drum on the front of the machine, as well as the consumables, the carbide tipped bits that are doing the cutting as well. After that fact, we have the conveyor chains that pull that ore from the cut face out to the rubber conveyor belt. And then from that point, we actually look after a lot of the conveyor components as well, the rollers, the idlers, belt scrapers, those kind of maintenance issues as well that come up on the conveying equipment.
So you're actually yeah, when I first came to contact with your company, I misunderstood and I thought it was basically you're doing the ends, the bit service part of it. But that
Mhm.
isn't but you're doing the whole. Can you run through that again? I know there's a picture that you showed that you sent over to me. It's of a gray machine. Can you talk a little bit about, you just mentioned it, that whole assembly, what you're putting on it?
Yeah. So I guess on a boring machine, an underground potash, for instance, if a typical one would be, a 2 or a 4 rotor machine, depending on the type of mine that we're in underground potash mining in Saskatchewan. But on those themselves, I mean, that's how we got our start as a company, is actually making the cutting bits for the front of those boring machines. That was it was an industry that at the time didn't exist. It was a relatively new, um, mining sector. The underground hard rock mining, underground coal, they all had a very mature industry dating back more than 100 years. But, potash mining really didn't get its good start until the early 60s in Saskatchewan. And so that's when we started up our corporation as well, was in that time actually, growing with them, actually making those bits that work specifically on the boring machines that they're operating in. We've evolved over all these years with them, developing those bits to work better, to last longer, to give higher service life, to higher performance, serviceability. But then, of course, to support that, we look after all the equipment that comes after that point too. So, the tool holders that those bits are located and held for the position of the actual cutting assembly itself. The rotors that the tool holders mount on, we fabricate those here as well. Then all the conveying components that come in behind to be able to bring that ore from that cut face back to the conveying system of the mine. So it was just that natural evolution to be able to serve the customer, to be able to provide products that were specific to the mines that they needed, as opposed to them relying on, I guess, an OEM industry that might serve various needs across the world, where they had to make some compromises here. And then we helped them keep everything specific to the cutting conditions that they had in our industry, to be able to help them perform better, to be, you know, uh, competitive on that global market, to be able to stay efficient and produce the best product at a cost-effective price for them.
I was curious. I do feel bad sometimes for the guests that they have to answer these questions that probably everybody else knows. But when these machines, like a boring machine or a continuous miner, are they? Is it a continuous? Is there a continuous rotation of types of bits, depending on the material they're entering into, or do you find one that's sort of universal for that site and that machine?
Yes, actually, to answer that, it's a little bit of both. In some cases, in some sites, there are, one, like on a boring machine, they use a radial bit, and in most cases, in a lot of sites, that one that we narrow down to is kind of that universal bit for that site and works well in 90% of the conditions. We have some sites that have, two or three different radial bits that they'll then cycle through depending on the ore conditions that they encounter throughout the footprint of the mine. A lot of these mines, given the fact, like I say, they started in the the mid to late 60s. They're very mature. You get down underground, they're all mining at a depth of about, give or take about a kilometer in depth. And so, from that point, they extend out, in many cases, dozens of kilometers in any direction. So, I mean, there's a good amount of difference that they can encounter in their ore conditions between one end of the mine to the other end. And, they have mining machines operating in all those directions. And so, they'll have, one that can handle different types of ore and one that they'll have in the other, one that, it's it's one of those things that we end up having to develop over the years with them. We have a bit of a system that goes based on the end of the mine that they're working in. We have something that'll work in those different conditions. And it's one of the things that keeps us as a good strategic partner for them, in that we're local, we're right here, we can respond very quickly to their varying needs, as opposed to them getting something from I guess Europe or overseas. I guess Europe's also overseas, but to get something where there is that significant time lag, if they
Yeah.
know they're coming into a certain cutting condition, they can call us, really that week, the next week, we can get them out something that serves the needs of the new conditions that they're in, that will keep them, cutting efficiently in that area.
Is that really what something that gives you a market edge? I mean, company's been around. I want to talk about the history of it. I mean, the company's been around since 1965, which is not a, there's some big players in your space,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of competition. And a lot of people would obviously love to have the contracts that you have.
Mhm.
Um, is that what it is, that you is it the ability to deliver so quickly?
Yes.
Is that a big edge?
Definitely, because the mining companies themselves are very big, but again, having enormous quantities of inventory to be able to cover all these different conditions they have is also a cash flow cost for them as well. For us to be able to look after that, them being able to keep a more modest inventory level, and be able to answer the different needs of the different kind of cutting conditions they have, is something that again helps them be more cost effective, and it helps us to be able to serve them in a way that is unique compared to some of the larger manufacturers that you'll have in a global market, where they would much more prefer to maybe have one product to be able to sell, to be able to make it more cost effective for them, and to just ease their transition into the market, as it were.
I know there's a lot of NDA things that happen in mining, so we always have to be mindful of that on the show. But what a company that's been around as long as yours, do you know who the longest customer is?
Yeah, yes, but actually, in just in potash, as a good example, they've changed hands, they've
Yeah,
merged, upgraded, gone through several transitions, so that our current customers, they're the same mining sites that we've had over all these years. However, they've gone through several transitions in either ownership or corporate structure in that time, that they're no longer the same, I guess, the same entity, the same corporation, that the existing mine was. But
same
you know,
pit.
our ones, our ones down in the Esterhazy area, where we have our two locations, that'll be the southeastern corner of the province in Saskatchewan, are definitely the oldest mines down there. And through all the years, it's the same mining site, but different companies running it, for all intents and purposes nowadays.
Does that pose a challenge? Because, and I hadn't even thought of that, all the changes that mining operations, they do change hands and change leadership. And is that I mean, even a purchasing manager, that position, someone for 10 years and now they're moving on. Is that a big challenge in your industry, or have you figured out a way to pretty smoothly transition to new contacts?
Definitely, and I mean, ours actually, given the fact that the age of our sector, our mining sector, is in that 55-year range, we actually do have a lot of people that were just in the last 10 years have retired from having started in the industry, down in those. So it is one of those things where in our last 10, 15 years, we've gone through a lot of that transition of having to make sure that we're maintaining those relationships, and and cultivating new relationships with new people in those same senior leadership positions. But it really comes down to just regular, daily, weekly contact with the mines, making sure that we have those regular conversations, that you know we don't have new people come into the position that we're completely foreign to, that we don't have a relationship built up with. So making sure that we have those introductions made when new people come on site, and that we all have kind of an existing ongoing relationship at all times.
This I'm going to try to ask this question right, because there's when you talk about investments and things like that, your the word a sticky business will come out. I think that's I hate it when people misquote Buffett, but but he does talk about having sticky businesses. Um, so where did the company start? And you did touch on it earlier. Has it evolved, like that core business? Is it the same as it originally was?
Definitely, yes. I guess, like I said, we started as a corporation looking after the underground mining bits for these mining machines, and underground potash and underground coal, specifically the two. And that was one of those things that we've gone through that evolution. We still that is our core business still today. However, like anything, that's it's one of those things that in order to be more sustainable, to be able to be here in the long term, diversification is key. And so that is definitely one of those things that even over the years, getting into the supporting equipment as part of our kind of our base that we're looking after, as well as in the last several years looking into even more diversification outside of our core market. Not it's very, very careful, because we also have to make sure that our core market, which got us here, is also still well looked after, and we don't look elsewhere and leave them behind in the meantime. So it's a bit of a careful transition as well, to be able to make sure that we grow thoughtfully, and not expanding outside of our industry and diluting ourselves, more so just building on the strengths that we've developed over the years, to be able to really provide the same strength that we have for our core market, and be able to provide that same offering to new clients, new customers in different sectors, and be able to really just cultivate those same relationships that we've built in all those years, and just with a new client base, which is really where it's a much smoother, more organic transition, as opposed to just essentially trying to open up a new market to new customers, and kind of losing or splitting focus.
Is there a product that you've taken on, or a transition that you've done, a service you've expanded to, or an industry that you've sort of focused in on, that in for you was the big it was a big one, it was a big step?
Definitely. I think really for us, a lot of it was actually in the actual material conveying, because our in the past, what we had as a core really for several decades. Right now, we've looked after material handling in the sense of pulling that ore from the cutting assembly of a machine out onto the out by conveyor belt, or if it's shuttle cars or loaders, that they're moving that ore away from the underground mining phase. And we had a really strong grasp on that, and we were always there with the rubber conveyors and the other conveying systems. But it's one of those things that was kind of a natural transition for us too, simply because of the fact that we got a chance to see that most mines were treating those out by conveyors as a simple commodity, a simple replaceable component. And a lot of it was bought and sold, and just stored as an item. Like I said, it was commoditized. It was kind of bought on the lowest priced available.
Right.
Whereas we went in and searched all around. Actually, ended up finding a wonderful strategic partner in Spain with Alma Conveyor Components, where they their products are developed on the basis of sure quality, innovation, and repeatability, and in just bringing something to the market that is over and above just the commodity that they were finding. So we're able to again go to a customer, and instead of just telling them we have a product to offer you, as another product to buy, we have something where we can actually go in and, you know, improve their return on investment, improve their service life, give them value for something that they were treating as a commodity, and kind of guide that conversation a little bit more. And again, strengthen ourselves as an actual partner for those mines that, we're in it to be able to help them, as opposed to, just, you know, have a relationship that's transactional in nature.
You touched on something that I mean, I would say, especially walking trade show floors when people are trying to engage new business, and you're talking directly, and so you end up talking in a row, you might talk to 5 or 10 people.
Mhm.
And a major challenge in the industry is we've got something that saves you money over time, it's quality, but then, like you said, over here, the customer has commoditized it. Now
Yeah.
you're coming in and you're saying, we've got a better, more efficient product to provide you with. Usually that means that there's going to be a little bit bigger of a price tag on it.
Mhm.
So how did you approach that? Because that's a major challenge that the industry has, suppliers to the industry have.
Yeah, definitely. And that's, it's tough because, again, whenever you're getting into a mature sector, especially in mining, there's inertia involved, there's loyalty involved with, current suppliers, relationships between procurement professionals as well as, vendors. And so it was something that we had to, you know, get buy-in from, engineering groups, from project managers, other people on site, to be able to, take that risk, take that jump, the leap of faith on trying a new component, proving it out first, and then being able to go in and work on it in terms of the actual quotation, the actual transaction of of that situation, where in many cases, because we had vendors that had very, very long time relationships with certain mines that again were transactional in nature. We're just it was a commoditized relationship. A lot of times some of those those vendors had you know uh, gotten a little comfortable with their pricing too. So in many cases we were able to provide a product that's superior in both concept design as well as quality, and it even came in at a lower price than what they were paying already. So it's a win-win. It's not something where we're going in and looking to profit off the customer, or feed off them in some way, where we're actually providing them value for what we're providing them, and they're able to see it through both the costs that they're paying, as well as their return on investment in service life as well.
And it must have given you obviously a huge advantage that you've worked, the delivered to this mine for years and years, and now you're adding another product line. It's not
Mhm.
this staggering. You're not trying to, you're not having to have the salesman go up to their front door and knock, right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Definitely. It's a huge advantage. Again, and it all goes back to those, cultivating those relationships, and, being there, and essentially being a partner for them, helping to solve problems for them on a regular basis. So, when we do call on them, it's not one of those awkward things where they're, oh, darn it, here's that salesman calling again.
Right.
It's, we're there, almost, more as, like I say, a problem solver, call it a, almost a consultancy basis, where, we're helping them with an issue and then building on that, as opposed to just, trying to insert ourselves as yet another warehouse for them.
Yeah, every now and then you still see the real salesman show up, the stereotypical salesman. And nowadays, even I'm pretty sure even from 5 years ago, it just looks so out of place now. That
Yes.
style.
Yeah.
It's just so oddball when you see that person just storming through, sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, and it's you can definitely say that, even just from all of our mining customers, whether it be potash, whether it be coal mines, hard rock mines, things like that, where the mines themselves are primarily staffed with leaders in an engineering background, a
Yeah.
business background. They have CPAs, MBAs. They're people who are very thoughtful. They'll research a product. They want to be given facts, and they want research done behind what you're doing, as opposed to going in there and essentially using, whether it be manipulation or sweet talking them into
Yeah.
looking at a product, because that just that might get you one sale, but it doesn't get you a long-term relationship with that customer.
Yeah, doesn't keep you in business since
No,
1965.
that's right. Yes.
Um, the I want to talk a little bit about the different types of mines, like potash from nickel, that sort of thing. 'Cause I know you're sort of grounded in that potash industry,
Hmm.
but you also service under other industries.
Yeah.
So could you sort of outline, again, for you, you've been in that industry so long, it's very easy, but a lot of people aren't in that industry. So
Yeah.
what sort of separates the potash industry from, nickel and copper and all and coal and all that? And could you sort of distinguish what the differences are and then how you enter those other markets as well?
Well, a lot of it, I mean, really from the outside, their actual mining methods are very different. So primarily we'll say, potash and coal are both, dominated by mechanical cutting, some sort of conveying up to a processing plant on surface. A lot of the hard rock mines, be it gold, nickel, iron ore, silver, copper, a lot of them, will use a drill and blast method, other types of methods underground where it's then conveyed up. But then really, other than that actual extraction method, whether it be mechanical cutting in the case of, soft rock mining, or a drill and blast method, or, raise bore method, other sort of things. I mean, you take that out of it, a lot of it is still, the grassroots of it is still, you have an extraction method, you have a conveying method up to being processed on surface. So, that's where we're able to look at it and find some of those synergies between the different types of mining methods where, sure, that initial extraction might be different, but from that point, a lot of those challenges still exist, whether it be, being able to convey it properly, to be able to, look after the hygiene of the belts in the same way, like I said, with one of our strategic partners, StarClean, we've taken on, where, they just have this very unique and innovative type of belt cleaning system that we've been able to provide. And it's one of those things that provides crossover between, the soft rock mining in potash, as opposed to, say a nickel or a copper mine, where, they all have that challenge of their, you need to be able to maintain that very expensive investment that they have in that conveyor belt underground. And, it's one of those things that we're able to go in and help them to be able to preserve that huge capital investment that they have. So, there's a lot of those synergies that, that help us cross over for all those sectors.
So what would be if you're looking, let's say you're looking at a nickel mine or a gold mine of that, what is are you looking to supply all your components? Are they a potential sale, or is there a few key product lines that you feel that you can enter into the market with?
Yeah, really. I mean, like I say, our entry to a new client or a new customer, a new sector, is really going in, offering our strengths. So in that case, again, leading back to the salesman analogy, going in there looking to find out what we can sell to them is, nowadays not the right strategy, because nobody, a lot of these the leaders in mines, they're busy people, and, they don't have time to be sold to.
Right.
Whereas if we can go in and, find out where their issues that they're having, where are they struggling with, and finding out a lot of times that it's the same struggles that they're having in potash mines, for instance, where, we've already built that, that good base of knowledge, where we can offer different kind of unique solutions that are something that we can help, improve their efficiency in certain situations. And then from that point, we can, kind of broaden our view in their sector and say, okay, where else, can we bring, some of this thinking. Because, again, different mining sector that we come from, but at the same time, it allows us to sort of think outside the box and be able to provide them unique solutions to problems that they could be currently struggling with.
Did that approach that you have, did that evolve into that, or has that sort of always been your approach, being at the helm of the company?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, my early years, so I've been with the company myself for 20 years now. And, even in my early first 5, 10 years, the mines were still, for a great deal, run by people who had just sort of evolved through the industry themselves. So, they might have started in maintenance or production underground, and, they were used to the typical, the salesman type people who would come on site, and it's really been the last 10, 15 years where a lot of those people have retired and been replaced by people with business and engineering backgrounds who really need a different approach. They need to be approached thoughtfully. They need somebody to come in and help them with concerns and problems that they're having, as opposed to coming in and looking to profit off the mine site. So it's been an evolution, but it's actually been very good, because at the end of the day, you feel much better about yourself solving a problem for somebody than you do, going in trying to convince somebody to buy something from you.
And it makes it much more exciting when you check your email and you see emails from them. You can kind of guess that it'll probably be positive because you already solved the
Definitely,
problem.
and positive for both. It's a
Yeah.
mutual transaction in that sense, where we're helping them and they're helping us. It's beneficial to both parties, as opposed to it being one sided if you're just selling them something.
Um, you have done, and we've talked about potash, but you've done actually quite a bit of work out in BC and Alberta and around Canada. So can you talk a little bit about that? You can sort of pick the industries you'd want. But I know you've done quite a bit in the coal mining sector out in Western Canada. So maybe
Yes.
highlight that.
Absolutely. Like a lot of our strengths in the past were, again, like in that kind of that material handling and primary crushing, to be able to size that initial ore that comes in from a mine. So we take it from an underground or a surface coal mine, for instance. I mean, a lot of the stuff comes in and needs to be sized to be able to be either put through the processing plant or shipped to the final customer. And so that's where we came in, providing equipment for surface and underground feeder breakers to be able to size that equipment. So we've dealt with customers all across BC and Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, Quebec, on those type of applications, and then it's one of those things that have, helped us to really branch out and to have that kind of long-term relationships with a lot of those clients, a lot of those different mining sectors that are outside of our local core where we're physically located as well.
Where you're physically located though, is that servicing a mine in BC or in Alberta, or I don't know if you move into the US too much. Is that is that any sort of challenge, or is it because I know you have warehousing capabilities and all that sort of
Mhm.
thing. Um, does that pose any limitations at all?
Not really, simply because for the most part, a lot of these mining customers, the larger open pit coal operations, for instance, they have a vast quantity of very trained, skilled, and very capable maintenance and production staff, where on a day-to-day basis they can very easily look after the issues that they have coming up, and it's just usually when there's something a little unique that comes up where we'll assist them with something, we'll provide them a solution, work with them, and then most of it after that point can be done remotely via email, telephone, like we're doing right now with video
Yeah.
too. It's a much different world than it used to be, where there's a lot of very capable people at each of these mine sites across Canada, where it's just a matter of being able to provide whatever method of communication works for them. In some cases, of course, you have to be on site. You have to be able to put your hands on the piece of equipment that you're dealing with. But after that point, a lot of it can be done remotely, and it's more just check-ins and cultivating those relationships.
I used to um, I had a little siding company at one point, and gutters
Mhm.
and that sort of thing. And quite frequently you'd have to drill into to anchor things into the cement and that sort of thing. And there's two very different. There's probably more than two, but there's two extremely different types of people. There's someone that seems that the drill bit lasts about I don't know. It's like you never have to replace it. And then the next person, me, it's it's gone after about 5 minutes. Um, is that a major part of your business? Working with the operators, and I don't understand that, different types of steel and all that sort of thing. Is
Mhm.
that a big part of it? Figuring out what they're actually needing, how they operate, how they use their machines, all that type of thing.
Absolutely, because that's, again, that's, from a technical aspect, from an educational aspect, it's working with, the cutting conditions they have, the equipment they have, the ore conditions, but it's also looking at it in terms of the operators they have and the style that they're used to operating in, because we can provide an ideal component for one mine site that has exactly the same conditions as another, but they might have whether it be a different culture of mining where they got used to mining in a certain fashion that will just require a slight modification to what they're providing. So whether it needs say a more robust carbide insert to be able to withstand the higher pressures they're mining in, something that will just withstand additional heat, or just be able to withstand the heat generated by the mining based on the fact that they put a vast more pressure on their mining, whether it be a higher advance rate or just they push their equipment a little harder, so we can help offset that. Of course, it comes at a compromise of certain types of efficiency, but at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we're accommodating the mine because you know we have to keep them happy. We have to keep their superiors happy in the sense of return on investment. So just because something works at one site doesn't mean it's going to work at another, even if their conditions are the same. So it's definitely one of those things. Like I say, it comes down to that constant communication and just working with them on a site by site basis to make sure that we're providing something that works for how they need it and in the conditions that they're posed. So
Scott, I wanted to talk a little bit about sort of how you mentioned that you've been with the company for about 20 years. I wanted to touch on that a little bit before we
mhm.
wrap up the interview, but you mentioned uh what I don't think that's s- it's called Sparkling, but I've got it written right here.
Yeah,
What
Starclean.
Starclean, yeah.
Yep.
Sorry, there's a spelling error. It was
Mhm.
SR, Starclean. And then you mentioned Alma. You also mentioned the keychain supplier, that you work with, but I don't think you mentioned their names. Which company is that?
Yeah, so we have a couple other very key strategic partners that we have. So we have Cincinnati Mine Machinery, who looks after underground conveyor chains, crawler chains, and other components that again we've um, had a wonderful relationship with them for about 50 years now, and they are yeah they're quite the industry leader in terms of conveyor chains and crawler chains, other components for continuous miners, boring machines, and road headers, as well as trim chains for boring machines. Um, we have Bodell Company, who provides cutter bars and trim chains for underground boring machines as well, and for some of the other soft rock applications. And again, just recently we have our one of our key strategic partnerships with Kennametal to be able to provide just a vast array of other, carbide components, wear components, and other cutting tools for underground mining, surface mining as well. And so it's a lot of it is just it's gathering these together to be able to provide, kind of an all-encompassing, set of components to be able to, I guess, to offer a customer, but to have tools in our toolbox to be able to provide solutions for them.
Right.
We have just recently as well Hard Rock Vertex, who is a very big player in underground roof support and in face drilling in hard rock, soft rock mining as well. We've had a very good relationship with them, helping to expand their market and bring them to a whole different soft rock market that in the past they've been very very prominent in the hard rock mining. So we've had a very good crossover relationship with them as well. So
I think it's a perfect time to then transition into the leadership part, of the company.
mhm.
So how did you mentioned, were you the general manager at one point before you?
Yes. So yeah, started out in my early days, with a mechanical engineering background, started out in technical service, and worked through that. After maybe a decade or so, ended up as a sales manager of the company, in a general manager after that, and then in 2018, had myself and a group of investors ended up, purchasing the company, and we've been running it quite successfully, since that point as well.
Was the group of is that a group that you assembled together, or is it a group that was interested and you joined up with? How did that come about?
Yes. So it was a group that they're actually, again, leading back to the idea of strategic partners. They're somebody who, again, we're able to provide a lot other than financial backing. So they also serve as my board members with me as well. They each have very varied business and accounting backgrounds, things where we're able to really work on a lot of very strategic key decisions together to be able to look at efficiently growing, looking after our existing customers, but also just acting as a group of mentors as well to be able to really stay as strong as we are and be able to grow and succeed year over year. So it's been a great transition.
I don't want to just sort of let I think a key part of sort of a through line, like you said about strategic partners, is sort of becoming a theme in this interview, and
Yeah.
I want to dig into it in the sense that you hear that term a lot.
Yeah.
Um, Ironically, you actually hear talk about partnerships. I know this seems a little bit strange, a little bit negative, but you actually hear it from, it seems to me, a lot of people that almost don't play well with others. It's like they're expecting
Yes.
partners to come on board.
Yeah.
But you've really, your whole career has revolved around doing that. And
Mhm.
I'm curious, and I've asked this kind of question before on the show, but I'm very curious your answer because you've had so many
Mhm.
different types of partners as the businesses evolve.
Yeah.
Were you 22 years old and you thought, I'm going to learn how to develop partnerships and relationships and this sort of thing? Or were you not, is it was it just a natural progression?
Yeah, I guess really a lot of it, like I say, the whole idea is looking after the needs of the customer, but really looking at it thoughtfully. And if you're going to develop a partnership with somebody, it has to be something that serves both parties. It can't be one-sided. It has to be something that each offers something and is able to enrich that relationship. So, whether it be a strategic partnership with a vendor or with a client, or just a colleague in the industry, it's something where we're able to help grow from that and build off each other's strengths. And so it's it's something that you definitely have to check your ego when you're going into a lot of these, because the idea is the old cliche of surround yourself with people smarter than yourself. You have to bring people that help elevate you, but to help you want to strive to provide something better, whether it's to provide something better for yourself and your family, which is natural at the end of the day. That's kind of the reason why you're here, but it's also to help your customers to be able to improve efficiencies and their own return on the investment, to be able to make sure that these relationships last for the long term. And so a lot of these relationships you build have to be something that benefits everybody involved, whether it benefits us, the vendor, as well as that end customer, so that we're able to provide value at the end of the day, because that's really where it all comes down to, is the customer and our clients and our partners are looking for value, and that's what we need to provide them.
So when did your group come together? Sorry, I know you said, but I can't remember which when you said it. When did your group? How many years ago was that?
In 2018, so we're going into our third year really.
Oh, okay, okay. So it's been
Yeah.
fairly new. So I have to
Yeah.
ask, that must be quite. You've been in the business a long time, so I mean,
Mhm.
I don't know what you're like. For me, that stuff sort of gets me amped up, and it's almost a rush.
Yes.
What was that like putting that together? I mean, that moment when you go, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to try to get a
Mhm.
deal done.
Oh, it's definitely nerve-wracking. It's a whole different scenario from acting in a general manager role. I mean, you're really at that point you are running the company, but at the same time, you get to go home at the end of the day, and
Yeah.
there's some of that stress stays at work. Where a lot of it now it's a full-time endeavor, emotionally. And so, but it's good, again, finding people that you can surround yourself with that are, not only like-minded, but also bring a lot more to the table than you'd expect. So, again, it forces you to elevate yourself. They all are able to provide something that, fills a lot of those gaps that I may have in my own skill set to help me build and bring a more well-rounded approach to leadership and growing the company.
Through you because you've had a few different roles, I think it's a relevant question. Is what over the years, what's been the most challenging job? What's out of all of them, even if it was your first one, whichever one it was, what did you wake up one day and go, this is tough?
Well, I mean, I would say, probably, I mean, really, it would be the more recent of, I guess, leading in both a leadership and an ownership role where, I mean, you have a few different facets. Of course, there's the, leading the company from an operational standpoint, a financial standpoint, but then you have a lot more, at the end of the day, you have a lot more ownership over the HR aspect of the
Right.
company as well, which is a different challenge, So
Yeah.
it's a lot of different facets kind of pointing at you at all times.
Yeah, it's sort of a different thing, right? Because you're walking in, you are running the company as a GM, but then the next day you walk in and now you're one of the owners of the company, and these people that
Hmm.
you've worked with and have worked for you, you're now you're not just their boss, but you're the you run it, you own it.
Yeah.
Um, so there must have been a transition time of that as well, right?
Definitely, definitely. And it's definitely one of those things where, again, you have to be careful. You have to keep your ego in check and make sure that, I guess you're leading as much as you can. Again, it's a cliche, but leading as a leader and not as a boss. It's
Yeah.
going in and you're trying to lead by example, but also being thoughtful and making sure that you're, again, the same way you're providing value to your clients and your customers, you're also providing value to your employees, making sure that they're well looked after, that they have purpose, that they feel like they have a part in the corporation, in the sense that people have a voice, um, they have some input into their futures as well. So it's you try to make it a positive aspect for everybody involved, and hopefully at the end of the day, we have a smooth running operation where everybody is doing their part.
Yeah, it's yeah, I can just imagine sort of the excitement and the challenges that come. They kind of come hand in hand when you take on a role like that. Scott, thanks for coming on the show. It's your types of business is so interesting because it's like this, it's woven into the industry, and it's I always
Mhm.
find it so interesting. It's like I said, there's machines going everywhere, but then there's companies like yours that are just they're the ones that are actually making these machines efficient and making sure that they don't shut down and all that sort of stuff. So I'm really happy to have
Mhm.
you on the show. I hope at some point, especially, it seems like there's this sort of willingness and desire for the company to continue to expand. So I hope we sort of stay in touch, and maybe in a year or so have you back on and just sort of see where things are progressing to. It'd be interesting.
That'd be wonderful, for sure. I would welcome that. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Okay, that was fun.
Yes, it was.
You know what's
Oh,
funny?
excuse me.
Bit Service is one of these companies that I walk by, like I'll walk by machines and I'll go like, I wonder how they get that. Does the OEM supply? It's one of these just like kind of half thoughts I always have,
Yeah.
especially when I was grinding rust off machines at Savannah. Um, so I had lots of time to think about these things. Um, so yeah, I'm glad we had him on. Gowdy, where can people like, follow, comment, share, suggest guests, and whatever else?
Well, first up, please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We've got 2 episodes a week on there, and growing. So please subscribe. Also, if you'd like to be a guest on one of the shows, Mining Now, Crownsman Energy, or The Crownsman Show, contact us, info@crownsman.com. That's also if you'd like to recommend someone, or if you'd like to sponsor
Mm,
one of the episodes. Yeah,
got a lot of sponsors coming on, actually. We've
we
got some
do.
big
Yeah.
episodes coming up. So thank you to everybody who sponsored. Please stay in touch. We will see you on the next episode of Mining Now. And thank you very much, Scott Bahr, for coming on. It was a fun interview. See you in the next episode, everyone.